Hello there, yes, back talking about flat Earth. Um, well, I've done quite a few videos in the last day or so, and the reaction's been quite big, and I think that the intensity of the fanaticism seems to be increasing, and the comments, they really do confirm my suspicion that this is a kind of mind virus or some sort of mental illness. People that believe this, and I've noticed this over and over again, do not seem able to let information that contradicts their beliefs penetrate their consciousness. Um, I I was remembering this story that I was told once. Can't remember where I heard it, but it was about an experiment that was done in a university where they hypnotized people. And they hypnotized this person and told them that they were in their own home. And they asked the person to give them a guided tour of their home, although they were wandering around the university. And the person came across an elevator, or a lift as we say in the UK, and instead of looking at it and saying, wait a minute, I can't possibly be in my own home, they started making up a story about it and even talked about how much money it cost to have this elevator installed in their house. Now, I think this shows you something very interesting about the human mind and the way the human brain works. We're very good at covering over things that don't make sense, and we're very good at making excuses for things. Once our brain is in a certain, how would you put it, mode, that once it's decided that something's true, it will make up excuses for evidence that goes against it, and it can make sense of the senseless. We're very good at it. We have very strange ways of thinking about things, very peculiar minds that we have as human beings, I think. I find it very interesting. So I think flat Earth in some ways is kind of like a mind virus, but it's also like a form of self-hypnosis. And you can see that in the flat earthers, in their videos when they talk about how they became flat earthers. I mean, you hear this story over and over again. Oh, I saw flat earth videos and I thought it was mad, and then I watched them and I couldn't debunk them. And you can see them going through this process of talking themselves into it, like they want to believe it. And they get some huge emotional relief out of it. So I just regard them as people that are infected with a mind virus, who are not thinking straight, and who are kind of hypnotized. They're like that person who thought the elevator was in the front room. And when you see stuff like this, something sinking below the horizon, they do react like that person who saw the elevator. They don't go, wait a minute, that's not what you would expect to see on a flat Earth. The Earth can't be flat. They say, oh, that's it's perspective or something like that, or it's bending light, or it could be all kinds of things, and it's something to do with the way your eyes work, and just endless dishonest excuses. And the reactions to the videos that I've made, the video I made about gravity, where essentially what I did was I just went through how you can know from simple everyday examples that there is gravity, and that these simple that you can find simple examples in your everyday life that support our understanding of gravity and the theory of gravity. This is how it enters your life. It enters your life as a force that pulls things towards the ground, and the magnitude of it is proportional to the mass of the object. That's incredibly simple, and it's very obvious, and it's very easily proven from the things that we know about the world. And the reactions I've had are just absolutely astonishing. Just keep getting all this stuff about gravity's density. How does density explain it? I don't understand that. I mean, if you have a solid you could have variations of density within that solid. There's no evidence that that starts to distort the solid. Because if denser things had a tendency to move down and less dense things to move up, if you had density variations within a solid object, then that would create forces within it. Well, that brings me to another point. I mean, what is their position on this density thing? Are they suggesting that variations in density actually creates a force? Or are they saying that there isn't a force? I mean, what is their position on this? I've had comments from people saying, oh yeah, no, obviously there's a force. No one's saying there's not a force. We're just saying there's no gravity. Well, what exactly is your position? It's just incoherent. It's an incoherent mess, okay? It's just people making up stuff. Just like someone who's hypnotized, they see something, they can't make sense of it, so they make something up. And we're superb at that. And I also want to talk a little bit about these tactics that they use and these arguments that they think they've got. You can see an example of it. This guy just keeps leaving the same comment on loads and loads of videos, and I've got it all day from different people. Give me an example of water conforming to the exterior of a shape. And I'll just talk about this as well. I've noticed that flat earthers, they tend to sort of use like phrases and and ways of saying things that I think they think it makes it sound like it's more important, or they've picked up these phrases that they think sort of makes it sound more plausible what they're saying, and these kind of pompous things that they come out with. Oh, the burden of proof is on, you're the one making the assertion, the burden of proof, and I'm a Socratic and you're a sophist, and blah, blah, blah. So the burden of proof is on you to provide a practical example of water conforming to the exterior of a shape. Have you noticed this phrase, water conforming to the exterior of a shape? They're all saying it, and it came from Dell. It's getting like a cult. It's like the cult of Dell now. It's not even flat earth. And now let's go into this. This is a completely dishonest tactic. It's asking for evidence that nobody would expect, and it proves nothing at all. And they know that you can't give an example of water conforming to the exterior of a shape because it doesn't do it on the scale of human beings, on the scale of objects that we could hold in our hand. And as I've talked about, there's very little scale invariance in the universe. So you can't extrapolate from how things behave on one scale to another scale. So it's a completely dishonest tactic. To give you an example, to go back to a thing I was talking about in a video before about the idea of aging, I could come up with a conspiracy theory that there's no such thing as aging. You could come up with quite a good one about that and use the tactics of flat earthers. I could say, okay, show me someone aging. Show me an example of someone aging. And so if they showed me a photograph of themselves when they were younger, photographs don't prove anything. Those are just CGI. They've been created by the conspiracy to make you think that you age. And if they talked about their memory of being younger, no, those memories have been planted. That doesn't prove anything. I want to see proof. I want to see someone aging before my eyes. Show me a baby turning into an old man, and I'll believe that there's such a thing as aging. Now, that is a dishonest tactic because it's asking for something that you wouldn't expect to be able to show. That doesn't mean that there's no aging. You would not expect water to conform to the exterior of a shape that you could hold in your hand. That doesn't mean that Earth's not a sphere. But they know that you can't provide that example, so they know if they keep asking this, they'll know they'll get no answer. So therefore, they're convinced that they're right. It's just part of their sophism. This is classic sophism. Now, if you're going to debunk a model, what you have to do is you have to look at what that model predicts and then show that it doesn't pertain in the world. That's how you debunk a model. Now, our standard model of a spherical Earth, heliocentric solar system with gravitational fields does not predict that water would stick to a ball you could hold in your hand in the way it sticks to the Earth. It doesn't predict that. Therefore, showing that it doesn't happen does not debunk our standard model of the world. It doesn't predict that you would see curvature on the surface of water. It predicts that water would fill up containers from the bottom up, take their shape, and have a surface on the top with an amount of curvature that is negligible on a small scale, so that you can take it as being flat. And that's exactly what we see in the world. So showing that there's no visible curvature on water and showing that water doesn't stick to a ball doesn't disprove the spherical Earth. It's sophism. I mean, as Dell keeps accusing me of that is classic sophism. It's totally dishonest. So I just keep getting these same comments all day about gravity's just density. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. If you accept there's a force, provide a practical example of body involves water, blah, 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 blah. Now, another thing that they do, another tactic they do, is that they have these arguments from what you call an argument from incredulity. And it's essentially, what they do is they repeat facts, combine them with a few misrepresentations, and then sort of say it in a way that sounds like it's totally implausible, and it just sounds intrinsically ridiculous. Like, oh, I mean, we've all heard it, haven't we? Oh, the world, it's spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, and it's hurling round the universe, and going and sort of spinning around the sun at 67,000 miles an hour. They're at mind-numbing speeds, and we can't feel that. Well, why would you feel it? There's no reason why you would feel that. We're moving through space, which is practically a vacuum. Velocity is a relative measurement. When you say the Earth's moving at 67,000 miles an hour, you're only saying how fast it's moving relative to the Sun. You could say how fast it's moving relative to Mars or any other astronomical body. In terms of what is significant physically, what matters is acceleration. And as I've demonstrated a couple of years ago, the acceleration of the Earth due to these movements and rotations is absolutely tiny. And the effect it would have on any object on Earth is completely negligible. But anyway, yeah, this thing that they do where they just kind of repeat things in this obnoxious way, like, so what, we're supposed to believe that there's this invisible force and it pulls things to the ground, but it keeps the moon going round the Earth. How does that work? But the sun can't suck the moon away from the Earth's orbit. I've been getting this stuff all day. I mean, for a start, all it demonstrates is a willful ignorance of basic physics. I mean, for a start, if you have two bodies in space and they're attracting each other gravitationally, they would only collide if they were moving in a straight line directly towards each other. If they're not doing that, then they'll just keep moving around their centre of gravity of the system. They'll just start following paths around it. The chances of them hitting each other is tiny. Even if they did, they would probably just bounce off each other. So that doesn't debunk gravity. I mean, this is like the childishness of their mentality, that they think that physics would be that easy to debunk. And it's indicative of this whole kind of subculture of people online, flat earthers amongst them, who have this mentality which is basically, I don't understand this, it must be wrong. I don't know what the answer is to my question, therefore there is no answer. And instead of going, I don't understand this, I know what I'll do. I'll actually go and find out what real scientists say about it. I'll try and find out the real answers. The chances are that just because I don't understand it, it just means that I don't know enough to understand it. More often than not, if you encounter something you don't understand, the chances are it's just because you don't know enough, not because the thing is wrong. And this ability that scientists or the human race has learned to rationally comprehend the universe, to meticulously observe it, record what we see, think about it, hypothesize, go back, check, go through this process of trying to rationally comprehend the universe. Our human beings had to learn how to do that. We didn't evolve with the ability to do that. I mean, the human race has existed for somewhere between 100,000 and 250,000 years. So that means for at least 100,000 years, it never occurred to us how to do science. I mean, that shows that it's not something natural to us. It's something you have to learn. You're not born a scientist. You become one. You have to learn how to be a scientist. And there's people online who think that all they have to do is go for a walk, look up at the sky, see something and go, well, that doesn't make sense. What, you can see the sun and the moon at the same time? I don't get that. The earth must be flat. And it's not that. It's just that you don't know what you're talking about. And you've deliberately decided not to know what you're talking about. You've deliberately decided to stick to a misconception. And this is another thing about flat earthers. I've discovered this over and over again. You can explain to them why they're wrong from now until the end of time, and they won't accept it. That's why I'm not going on any stupid hangout with Dell or anyone else, so you can all call me cowards as much as you want. I don't really care. I don't care what Dell thinks. He's a fanatic. I can't cure his delusions. I can't cure your delusions. Don't ask me to. Okay? As they say, you've got to want to change. I'm just here to make sure that the record's been put straight and to help clear up the toxic mess that you lot are leaving on the internet. And to dissuade people who might be coming up, might be finding out about this thing. Okay? And, go back to this thing about science. I mean, I don't know of any other examples where people would behave like that. I mean, would you go up to an engineer who's building a bridge and say to him, do you know what? I actually think you're doing it wrong. I know more about building bridges. I've been doing research. And if the engineer said, well, what research have you been doing? Well, I watched some videos on YouTube, and it said that people that build bridges don't know what they're doing, and I thought about it, and I convinced myself by thinking about it. I don't think the engineer would take you very seriously. And it's a hard fact of life to get into your head, but the truth is, okay, and this is the truth, there are people in the world who know more about things than you do and are smarter than you can even imagine. And they make the world that you live in work. Now, just thinking about things doesn't mean anything. This is another thing I found. This whole culture of people who think just because they go for a walk and they keep thinking about loads of things that they're thinking really intelligent thoughts. To think about the world really critically and rationally, it requires, you don't have to be a total genius. You have to be reasonably intelligent. You don't have to be brilliant or outstanding. But you have to have discipline, hard work, and an awful lot of honesty. Now, flat earthers don't have any of that. They're lazy, they're dishonest, they have no discipline, they don't subject their claims to any kind of peer review, they can't take criticism, they can't take on board that they're wrong, they create fake meaningless arguments, they have a whole bag of dishonest tactics to use. They use all kinds of psychological manipulation, constantly telling you, oh, you just indoctrinated, you don't know, you just said this because of NASA, you're indoctrinated. If you can't take the flat earth seriously, you must be closed-minded. I mean, these are like tactics of a cult. This is how you get taken into a cult. And also this obsession with ego. It's all about ego. Ego, man, ego. And you've got people like Dell who are just display such intense levels of paranoia and see the whole world in terms of these mind games. And Dell's obsessed with this kind of paranoid mind game view of reality, I can see what everyone's up to and I know what they're up to. And it's a crazy, disturbing world. And the comments that I've had on my videos over the last 2 years, and particularly just the last few days, it's just bizarre. But I don't know. I think I might talk about the whole thing again more, but I think I'll wrap this up because I don't like making my videos too long because people just won't listen to them. But I do want to go on to do some videos where I look at the actual evidence supporting the spherical Earth. So I think that's the next thing I've really got to start doing.